rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick, and I'm trying to make sure that my mic isn't too hot. Anyway, well, goodness. We have a little bit more information about what happened on, what do you call it? On, Politico's calling it Signalgate. Let's be honest, it really isn't. Worse things happened and have happened in the past over all of this, but it seems to be a big topic for the left. And so, yeah, I'm just going to have to cover at least a little bit of it prior to everything, of course, that's going on. Now, the gentleman, Jeffrey Goldberg, who jumped on the bandwagon and he was kind of asked a couple of questions about things. And it got interesting, let's just say. So anyway, we'll get into all that in just a minute. First things first, I want to tell you, of course, that today is...
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
All right. Tonight is a Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And tonight I am drinking out of the Woodford Reserve. I've got maybe a glass left or so. Glass and a few drops, but I am taking it from the wonderful gift that was given to me. It takes stones to drink with whiskey glass. And there's the stones in the bottom. So there we go. First sip of the night. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get things started off here. We've got Judge Wild on deck. He is ready to go to recite the pledge. So if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, and place your hand over your heart and join along with Judge Wild as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh yeah, hurrah!
All right, and of course, I thank you, Judge, for submitting that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your version of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio or video file, whatever file it creates, attach it to an email, send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. All right, our headliner sponsor, because it is Wednesday, of course, is, as soon as I can figure my own little schema out here, all right, is TGRN, True Grit Roots Network. TGRN.net is our home on the web. Don't forget, Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio debuts April 7th. We are getting there. We're getting closer and closer. Not only that, but don't forget, April 9th and April 13th are the launch parties. April 9th is in New Braunfels, Texas at Green Hall, Grune, Green Hall. And that will be I'm planning on being there. for that launch, and then as well as the TGRN, the rest of the TGRN crew. And then also on the 13th in Lukenbach, Texas. Yes, that Lukenbach, Texas, the one from the famous song about Willie Whalen and the boys. He will be playing, Dallas Moore will be playing there, and we will also be sponsoring a launch party at that point, or TGRN is, and I will also be there as well. So if you are in Texas and can get to New Braunfels and or at least one, or Lukenbach, Texas, I would love to meet you guys. So go and make sure that you get that on your calendar. Again, that's April 9th and April 13th are those 2 days. And then you can check it out at dallasmore.com. Dallasmore, DALLASMOORE.com. He'll find his tour dates, and it's those 2 tour dates that are the launch parties. You can also go to tgrn.net and pick up the Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio socials links. We have Facebook, Instagram, as well as X for both of those. So, or for all of those. So you can go and check it out. And then, of course, we've got some great stuff coming. Dirty Boots Radio will be coming back. That is the the collaboration of Jonathan Oogie Richards for the Countryside, and Dirty Boots Radio will be returning to Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio as soon as it gets launched. There'll be more details on that coming out really soon as well. So head on over to tgrn.net. That's True Grit Roots Network, where you can start off by listening to Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio currently. And then after, on the 7th or out shortly thereafter, we will have Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio there as well. So there we go. Hey, I got into double digits on the thumbs on Rumble. Yay. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So yeah, head on over to tgrn.net to check us out. You can listen right there in the web, as well as download our app. And you can also find us in the Live 365 iHeartRadio or Odyssey, AUDACY catalog of digital radio stations for that as well. Okay. So don't forget tgrn.net, True Grit Roots Network, based out of Austin, Texas. Got to say that, of course. All right. Let's see. We've done the pledge. We've done this sponsor now. Oh yes, now we can move on. All right. So Signalgate. Not my name for it. I mean, the left seems to think, and this is actually a political thing, I think. But the left seems to think that this is like a major deal. And I'll be honest with you, that if I were to be of a, shall we say, weak-minded individual, okay, and I actually believed the Atlantic stories, I'd be inclined to think that this is much more than what it actually is. But there's some signs, honestly. There are some signs that it's not quite as bad as what people think. And the reason why I say that is you've got to watch the language. With the left, language is everything. Everything that they say or do, okay, is going to give you an indication as to the reality of the situation. Not necessarily in terms of their ability, okay, in terms of their ability to understand exactly what's going on, but in terms of how important it is to them, how much they want you to believe that this is something extremely bad that has been presented to it. So let's get to the Atlantic first, because, let's face it, we got to take a look at what they're doing. So here's the Atlantic. And here's the headline. Here are the attack plans that Trump's advisors shared on Signal. Now, this is a second part of the whole thing, because Jeffrey Goldberg first let him know that, hey, first let everybody know I was inadvertently sucked into a Signal chat, and I probably shouldn't have been there. Well, yeah, you're right. And that is, I'll admit, that is a big, a big pie in the face to the administration. But the reality of it is, it may not be as bad as what you're trying to make it out to be. So, yeah, anyway, Jeffrey Goldberg, again, here are the attack plans that Trump's advisors shared on Signal. Now, keep in mind, he held his tongue, thinking that it was a joke at first. He held his tongue thinking that, oh, yeah, this can't be real. This can't be real. Again, like I said last night, honestly, if he had had any kind of sense of, integrity, honesty, whatever, he would have either A, announced himself, or B, just backed off and, left the chat. But no, he held on. So here's what he supposedly got. And it's kind of down here. It's kind of dug down here. Keep in mind, of course, Tulsi Gabbard, John Ratcliffe, they all have said that, hey, there was no classified material that was shared during that group. And this is talking to the Senate Intelligence Committee. Radcliffe said basically the same. My communications in the Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information. None of it did. And even President Trump backed it up, saying it wasn't classified. But to reporter Jeffrey Goldberg, or editor-in-chief, or whatever it is, yeah, he... So here's what he got, or at least the first portion of it. So this is what was revealed in this piece. So at 11:45, roughly, Eastern Time, Hegseth posted in the chat in all caps, team update. The text beneath this began, time now, 11:44 ET, okay. Weather is favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. So that's Central Command, for those that don't know. All right. The next text is 12:15 ET. F-18's launch. First strike package. 13:45. Trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location and should be on time. Also, strike drones launch MQ-9s. Okay. Yeah. Now, this, you got to keep in mind, this, they claim in the piece that this was about 31 minutes before the first U.S. warplanes launched. 2 hours and 1 minute before the beginning of a period in which the primary target, a Houthi target terrorist, was expected to be killed by these American aircraft. All right. Now, it continues. 14:10, more F-18s launch, second strike package. 14:15, for those of you that don't know, 24-hour clock, that's about 2:15. Strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. 15:36, F-18 second strike starts. Also, first sea-based Tomahawks launched. More to follow, per timeline. And then it goes, then he says, we are currently clean on OPSEC. That's short for operational security. And then he goes, Godspeed to our warriors. And shortly after that, J.D. Vance replied and says, I will say a prayer for victory. Okay. Not bad. I mean, realistically, yeah, somebody could say, okay, well, that seems to be like an order of operations. But I don't see anything that's like anything necessarily totally out of the ordinary, other than just two groups or a group of people that were discussing a certain timeline on a particular project, or in this case, it happens to be an attack. There's no information in terms of where, no information in terms of specific strike coordinates, no information in terms of specific targets. So, again, not really all that much. Then at about 1:48 p.m., I'm assuming this is Eastern time because that's kind of where everything started, Mike Waltz sent the following text containing what is reported in the Atlantic as real-time intelligence about the conditions at the attack site. VP, building collapsed. Had multiple positive ID. Pete, Kurilla, the IC, amazing job. They're assuming that that Waltz was referring to Hegseth, General Michael Kurilla, the commander of Central Command, and the intelligence community. The references to multiple positive ID suggest the U.S. intelligence had ascertained the identities of the Houthi target or targets using either human or technical assets. Okay, great. So again, the 6 minutes later, he claims, the vice president, apparently confused by Waltz's message, wrote, what? At 2 p.m., Waltz responded, typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy, we had a positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and it is now collapsed. Okay. Cool. Vance responded a minute after that and says, excellent. 35 minutes after that, Radcliffe, the CIA director, wrote, a good start, which Waltz followed with a text containing a fist emoji, an American flag emoji, and a fire emoji. So, that's what he reported. Yeah, that's like really, really, I don't see anything that's really like concerning here. Keep in mind, I did did at one time hold a clearance during my stint in the service. Anyway, some more information came out. Townhall.com on X published the the screenshot copies of some of this stuff, and you can see exactly what Jeffrey Goldberg wrote. Here it is, right here. You can see it. Let me go ahead and see if I can zoom in. Yeah, it's right here. There's the now. There's the favorable. There's the F-18 launch, just like I read. Blah, blah, blah. More to follow. You move on, and you get, Joe Kent, according to this, said there's nothing time-sensitive driving the timeline. We'll have the exact same options in a month. So apparently this is a conversation as to whether or not they should act today or not. Okay. Yeah. So there's a couple of back and forth on it, about that getting it started and stuff. Pete Hegseth has a a couple of paragraphs here toward the bottom that, again, just letting you guys know there's nothing really here that it would be considered classified information. I mean, is it sensitive? Perhaps. I mean, it is internal communications, so it's not like, But yeah, I think this is kind of a big nothing burger. And there's more that the Townhall posted, where Mike Walls was talking about trade figures that they're saying that they're 15% of the global and 30% of container, assuming those have to deal with the amount of impact the Houthis have said or have done on the shipping issue. So yeah, again, I think he is trying to make a big mountain out of what is essentially a molehill. And there's some more here. I mean, J.D. Vance's team, I am out for the day during an economic event in Michigan, but I think we are making a mistake. And this is where he kind of discusses the whole idea. Here, I'll get it a little bigger. Here's where he kind of discusses the whole idea of why should we be getting involved in all of this? I mean, So, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't see anything here that would necessarily be, at least to me, a situation where I'd be saying, oh my gosh, this is not something that needs to be put out. Well, again, I'm looking at it from an outsider and be like, well, this is not exactly operational, security kind of stuff that's going on. But it is what it is, I guess. Well, National Security Advisor Mike Walls has now fallen on the sword. Here in the Epoch Times, he says he takes full responsibility for the Signal chat leak. I mean, again, keep in mind, there is some egg on the face, okay? There is egg on the face. Not going to say that this isn't something that is definitely concerning. Thankfully, there wasn't anything being discussed that was a large problem, per se. But, again, this isn't exactly what I would call a big problem from a Jeffrey Goldberg kind of stand-up. Anyway, Mike Walls says he takes full responsibility. Walls said that he did not know how the journalist's number ended up on his phone, adding that the Trump administration is investigating how it happened. So, Walls said in an interview with Fox News, he said, a staffer wasn't responsible. I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated. So, yeah. When asked about how Goldberg's contact number was added, Walls said there may have been a mix-up in contact information. Now, I remember I was telling you about this last night. JG, was the initial thing. Jeffrey Goldberg was how he kind of went. It could have been another person that was JG. Yeah. Anyway, Walls continued and did say, have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name and then you have somebody else's number there? It looked like somebody else. Now, whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical means is something we're trying to figure out. Walsh denied knowing Goldberg personally, saying that he had never met the journalist. However, the advisor said he knew some of the Atlantic's reporting on Donald Trump. He said, I can tell you 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. So, anyway, yeah, again, there, and like I said, there was no classified information based on Walls, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, John Ratcliffe. Those are the main people that I would say, yeah. So anyway, all of that being said, this is allowing Jeffrey Goldberg to kind of tout his luck, I guess. But here's part of the problem. Well, here. Before I get into that problem piece, let me go ahead and just show you. He was on the show with Jen Psaki, and, she kind of, here, let's just let him tell you all about it.
Responsible here and not disclose the things that I read and saw. I will describe them to you. The specific time of a future attack, specific targets, including human targets, meant to be killed in that attack, weapon systems, even weather reports that the government is I don't know why Hegseth was sharing it with everybody. I mean, the precise detail and then a long section on sequencing. This is going to happen, then that is going to happen. After that happens, this happens, then that happens, and then we go and find out if it worked. I mean, he can say that it wasn't a war plan, but it was a minute by minute accounting of what was about to happen, organized.
So, did what I read to you that he quote unquote said that he was revealing, did any of that sound like specific war plans? I mean, to me, that sounded more of like this is sort of an outline. Not necessarily a play-by-play. He is right. The weather was discussed. Yeah. I mean, there was nothing there that could necessarily, outside of just like saying, hey, guess what? Mr. and Mrs. Houthis, you might be attacked sometime. Where? Don't know. What time? Well, obviously it's an Eastern time. Yeah. Anyway. Again, I think that this is sort of one of those things. And notice too, that when he was speaking to her, he's like, well, I'm not going to tell you specifically what was said. All right, well, it's out now. Obviously, I just showed it to you. I showed you exactly what was written. I showed you the screenshots of the exact words and from who it came from. Townhall posted them on X publicly. Oh my gosh. It's a classified documents nightmare. Well, yeah. What is interesting, however, is there was a gentleman who, let's see, Tim Miller was interviewing Goldberg, and, basically he challenged him to print all of the classified stuff. Print it all. Yes. Here we go.
White House press secretary. I've said you're lying. I've said there are no war plans there. I've said there's no classified information. So the obvious question is, shouldn't you now demonstrate it? Shouldn't you publish the text?
No, because they're wrong. They're wrong.
But how can you prove that you're wrong? Maybe should you provide them to the House and Senate Special Committees on Intelligence? Maybe. I don't know.
Wow. Well, you want to become my lawyer?
I'm throwing this out there, Jeff. I don't know. I mean, look, the
No,
White
I
House
mean, look,
press secretary an hour ago said
I feel like no. I mean, I obviously, let me just put it this way: my colleagues and I, and the advice that and the people who are giving us advice on this, have some interesting conversations to have about this.
Yeah.
But just because they're irresponsible with material doesn't mean that I'm going to be irresponsible with this material. And you know what? I could, whatever. I mean, you've had a long history, as I have, with dealing with them, and at moments like this, when they're under pressure because they've been caught with their hand in the cookie jar or whatever, they will just literally say anything to get out of the moment, to get out of the jam, and that's okay. I get it. I get the defensive reaction, and but here's the thing: my obligation, I feel, is to the idea that we take national security information seriously. And maybe maybe in the coming days I'll be able to let you know that, okay, I have a plan to have this material vetted publicly. But I'm not going to say that now, because there's a lot of conversations that have to happen about that.
Makes sense.
And all of my inclinations, as you can tell, including withholding the name of the CIA undercover officer, all of my inclinations are, I have a pretty clear standards in my own behavior of what I consider information that I consider to be in the public interest, even if it's technically classified or not. Information that's in the public interest and information that's not in the public interest. And I'm just going to I'm sticking to my principles here.
All right. I'm going to tell you guys a story because it is very apropos to this particular situation. As you know, I spent time in the Army from 1990 to 1994. Okay. During that time, there was a very famous author, and I won't tell you who the author is, but a very famous author who wrote some very specific books. These books were very military based. And this particular author had a lot of contacts in the service and also did his research very, very well. Now, there was a specific item, and it was, at the time, what would be considered sensitive item that I personally used, okay, in my job. Now, I was reading one of these wonderful books, and lo and behold, there was the specific nomenclature and a very accurate description of what the device was that I used in my daily work. That could have been considered classified information, especially at the time. But that, in and of itself, was much more specific than the items that you saw and that I just read to you, that what's his name, Jeffrey Goldberg, seems to think is like classified information. Okay? I'm just telling you this because of the fact that there is so many things that are going out, okay? Going out on all of this. And, yeah, I just, what we've read so far And honestly, I mean, Jeffrey Goldberg, dude, if you have something that is extremely, what you consider is extremely classified, yeah, they just, oh my gosh, I'm just telling you that this is nothing. This is a big nothing burger. They had a conversation about something that was going to happen. You don't know where, you don't know necessarily how. I mean, it is giving slim, very little operational details to the entire situation. And yet this is, according to the left, the biggest freaking scandal ever. Well, let me tell you something. There was an even bigger scandal. And my good old friend Scott Jennings, man, let me tell you, I love this guy on CNN. He brings it out. Okay? And yes, realistically, again, as I'm saying, this whole signal thing, I mean, it's an unforced error is what you would call it. It was a mistake. It was a potentially a problem. All right. But there was something that happened in the last administration that actually cost people's lives. And not a single person's head rolled because of it. So let's take a listen to what Scott Jennings has to say about this wonderful thing that occurred.
I think that's actually kind of a refreshing thing for the government to say, okay, yes, effed up, we'll fix it, this won't happen again, especially when you contrast it with previous military and national security snafus in our recent history in which no one was held accountable, no one was fired, no mistakes were admitted until the very end. Joe Biden was saying Afghanistan was a success. I like it here that Donald Trump, the president, said he's a good man, but he learned a lesson. That tells me he and the president with Waltz had a hard talk.
I seem to recall a huge debacle that happened under the name of Afghanistan, in which 13 service members lost their lives on what was essentially the current generation's Saigon. All right. 13 soldiers died because of it, people, and not a single head rolled. There wasn't even, for all intents and purposes, a stern talking to with regards to this particular situation. This story is nothing. It's small potatoes, people. It's another big nothing burger that I don't think is really going to go anywhere, to be honest with you. And even if it does, it's still going to be no different than, Russia, and whatever else. I mean, again, folks, like I said last night, Clinton's private email server was a bigger problem than this. End of story. End of conversation. Right there. They decided to leave it alone and leave her alone. That's where all of this stuff became essentially low-level BS. All right, before I get into the next round of stuff, okay, I want to talk about this there's this great coffee. Great coffee. I have a big ass cup, and yes, I am going to say ass. It is big enough to hold basically 2 8-ounce cups of coffee, plus cream for both of those 8-ounce cups of coffee, in a coffee cup that my children gave me for Father's Day that says, "Father like no other." I drink out of that cup every single morning, but I got to tell you, that cup, if it had weak coffee in it, would not be able to keep me awake. Okay? Would not be able to keep me awake throughout my workday because I get up early and I have to have enough energy to come and watch and talk to you guys at night. And so that's what helps me. Well, weak coffee is for the weak, and at Rumble, weak has never been a part of this mission. No fillers, no fraud, and no selling or settling for mediocrity, just like 1775 coffee. It's single origin, small farm, hand-picked, specialty grade coffee that stands for quality, free speech, and calling out BS when it matters. Forget stale, mass-produced beans roasted just enough to hide the flaws. Dark roast hits like a Trump tariff. Medium roast keeps it bold without the bitterness. And the Vitality Mushroom Blend is real energy and lasting focus. No synthetic garbage. For K-Cup Bods, whole beans, or fresh ground coffee, go to 1775coffee.com. That's 1775, the number's 1775, coffee.com. Use promo code STUDIO, STUDIO, for 15% off. Once again, go to 1775coffee.com. That's 1775coffee, all one word, .com. Use promo code STUDIO for 15% off your order and start your morning with coffee that stands for something. All right. Finally took it. Okay. All right. Well, we have some bad news with regards to this whole Signalgate. And now what's ended up happening is apparently there's been a lawsuit filed over this whole thing. And the Trump administration has the bad luck of having the judge assigned to the case that is the same moron who tried blocking deportation flights, those deportation flights to El Salvador. Yes, this left-wing federal judge who's already locked in this feud, this deportation flight feud, has been assigned the case. There's a lawsuit that's been filed by an organization that claims that the Signal chat, the one that we were just discussing, violated the Federal Records Act. Those communications, released Monday by the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, are now subject to a lawsuit and have been assigned to U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg. That's right. Oh, my gosh. Kyle Cheney reported this on X. Judge James Boasberg has been assigned to the Signalgate lawsuit. Yeah. The case name is called American Oversight versus Hegseth et al., meaning a bunch of other people. So, yeah. Anyway, I mean, seriously, folks, it just, yeah. Oh, well, what's even worse, though, is that Just the News points out that Boasberg himself is a problem. Right here, you can see it in this article. This is a problem. Boasberg was attending anti-Trump orgs events. And now a Republican member of Congress and a Harvard professor have teamed up to call for a ban on special interest judicial junkets following the fact that Just the News revealed that Judge James Boasberg attended a privately funded conference with an anti-Trump organization. Yeah. Now, they reported this on Sunday night. And this is months before he blocked President Trump's deportations of illegal alien gang members. And that's the key, illegals. They weren't supposed to be here in the first place. They never should have been in the country. They should have been deported immediately. But this judge apparently attended a privately funded legal conference in Idaho that featured sponsors and speakers who have expressed clear anti-Trump sentiments, particularly on immigration and on January 6th. And a theme that echoed the Democrats' Party 2024 stated mission of saving democracy. Federal judicial ethics rules actually do currently allow such junkets, according to Just the News. So, Congressman Andy Biggs said during a Monday interview on Just the News No Noise with John Solomon and Amanda Head that banning these privately funded judicial junkets is something that needs to happen, and said that he would be including that ban in upcoming legislation, arguing that it is time to say, look, no go, no more of that. Here's the thing. If you're a judge, I mean, let's be completely honest here. If you're a judge, or if you're in any kind, I mean, I make it clear when there are conflicts of interest of mine on this show. When I basically say, hey, look, I'm just letting you all know it's wide open, out in the open, all about this. And I just don't understand how a judge who's supposed to be impartial, whose job, literal job, is to be as middle of the road as they possibly can. And it's not as though this judge didn't know that he was going to be in a position where he needed to be as middle of the road as possible, because he's a judge. He jumped on the opportunity to be a judicial figure. Why? Why is he sitting here looking at this and going, hey, you know what? It would be a great idea for me as a judge, you know, and I'm supposed to be the beacon of impartiality. But I think it'd be a good idea for me to go and join in a anti-Trump rally, knowing that I could be overseeing court cases that are potentially going to go up against this guy who's now the president. I mean, really? Oh my gosh. I can't, I can't understand it. I don't get it. I don't understand where these people get off on the idea of the fact that, hey, you know what? I can be impartial. The reason why I know I can be impartial is because I only attended one event last year. I didn't attend, you know, the 5 or 6 I was invited to. How many times have we found judges so far that have been, shall we say, tainted? I mean, let's face it. That one judge up in New York, I can't even remember his name. I mean, not Engeron, the other guy. I can't even remember his name now because the case has been dropped. But anyway, he had a daughter who was literally making money off of anti-Trump and opposition campaigning. I mean, really? Thank you, Mershon. Thank you. Jarhead 13 over on Rumble keeps me straight right there. Mershon. Anyway, I just don't understand. I don't get it. So, yeah. So the Rodell Institute Conference, details of which were contained in a privately funded seminar disclosure report that they are required to file, was part of the Institute's Judicial Fellowship, and each of the judges in attendance, including Boasberg, was a first-year fellow. Rodel itself is funded by the same left-wing foundations who often sponsor anti-Trump programs and publications. The group is led by an anti-Trump critic, and at least one of the speakers at the conference is a law professor who has repeatedly condemned Trump's immigration policies. Harvard law professor emeritus, I don't even know for sure if that's even the correct pronunciation there, but also Alan Dershowitz also said on the John Solomon Reports podcast on Monday that Boasberg's attendance at the Rodel Institute conference was, quote, a creation of, obviously, a conflict of interest, at least in appearance. And that, quote, when you have cases like this, you have to be absolutely above reproach. Oh, I'm being told it's meritus. Anyway, Dershowitz said that it would be better to have a blanket rule barring these paid junkets, but a lot of judges would get very upset because they really live for the summer. Dershowitz said that I think it begins and ends with Congress. Because he said, as of banning the privately funded judicial trips, and this is the key. This is the key right here, okay? Dershowitz said, Congress clearly has the authority over the lower courts. Again, Congress clearly has the authority over the lower courts. I've made this point on this program before, and I'll continue to make it. Article 3, Section 1, Sentence number 1. As soon as I can get there. Oh, that's Article 2. Article 3, Section 1, Sentence number 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. Again, Congress controls these lower courts, can either make or destroy and remove these lower courts constitutionally. So Boasberg apparently attended the conference last summer in ritzy Sun Valley, where 2 of the 4 Rodel Institution sessions were titled, quote, Role of Judges in a Democracy and, quote, the State of Democracy. Yeah. Here in the article, they actually call out Merchon. Anyway. Yeah, so Trump apparently wrote on True Social, this judge, meaning Boasberg, is almost as conflicted, actually not even close, as the judge whose daughter made millions of dollars representing Biden-Harris against me, while her father presided over a fake case against me and refused to recuse himself. He should be disbarred. Crooked Alvin Bragg was the DA in the case. They put me under a gag order so that I could not talk about it. Miscarriage of justice. Anyway. Yeah. We're kind of having a bit of a problem here, folks. That problem, of course, being the judicial system. These judges are thinking that they have just carte blanche control over everything, and they don't. Only the Supreme Court has the power to rein in the president and the legislature, and even that is limited in size and scope. Well, we have a win. I mean, not all judges are bad. Let's just put it that way. We have a win that we need to tout. This is a win against the previous Biden administration. here in the Epoch Times, judge rules that the Biden admin unlawfully canceled the oil and gas leases in the Alaska refuge. So, yeah, you remember how he canceled the oil and gas leases and was saying, you know, hey, we're not going to do this. We're going to get rid of all this, blah, blah, blah. And focus mostly on green energy. Well, the organization, which is the Alaska Industrial Development and Export Authority, took him to court, took the Biden administration to court, and a federal judge finally finished the case yesterday, where he ruled that the Department of the Interior acted unlawfully when it canceled 7 oil and gas leases issued for the ANWR area, known as the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, because the agency failed to obtain a court order beforehand. In his her 22-page order, U.S. District Judge Sharon Gleason stated that the Department of the Interior needed to obtain a court order to cancel the 7 leases that had been awarded to AIDEA before the Biden administration took office in 2021. Gleason stated, "There's no reason the DOI could not file an action seeking declaratory relief in such circumstances. Accordingly, federal defendants' cancellation of AIDEA's leases was not in accordance with law because it failed to seek a court order." Now, the AIDEA filed the lawsuit against the Biden administration in 2023 after the DOI canceled oil and gas leases that it had won in January of 2021 during the final days of President Trump's first term. After taking office on January 20th of 2021, President Joe Biden issued an executive order directing the DOI to review oil and gas leasing in ANWR, citing the alleged legal deficiencies underlying the program. This resulted in the suspension of the AIDEA's leases. They filed the lawsuit in November of 2021 in order to challenge the order, but the court originally dismissed it, ruling that the moratorium's temporary duration and limited scope were legal. So then the Biden administration canceled the leases in 2023 on the basis that the 2021 lease sale was flawed, which prompted the AIDA to file yet another lawsuit that year. And Gleason, in her recent ruling, sided with the AIDEA, citing that the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act provision that authorized the leasing in ANWR. According to her order, the Tax Act allowed the DOI to manage the leasing program in a manner similar to the Naval Petroleum Reserves Production Act, which stipulates the leases containing valuable oil or gas deposits can only be canceled by court order. I guarantee you that will not be appealed. Just saying. I honestly, I don't see the Trump administration, Department of Justice going, or even the Department of the Interior, appealing that. All right. Well, I told you about this a couple of days ago. I told you about the Ben Shapiro's new series, small mini series that he was putting out about Derek Chauvin, meaning the case for pardoning Derek Chauvin. If you get a chance and you can go over to the Daily Wire, and hopefully you'll get a chance to take a look at or listen to Ben Shapiro's podcast, because he's been putting out the sections on the case for Derek Chauvin, for pardoning Derek Chauvin. Well, there was a gentleman whom a lot of you may know from ESPN, is by the name of Stephen A. Smith. And while he is not exactly what I would call a conservative in any way, shape, or form, nor would I actually call him anything but a liberal leftist who might have woken up a little bit on a few things, Stephen A. Smith, well, has a bit of a problem with what Shapiro's doing. And thankfully, he isn't like responding like typical leftists where they're just screaming and hollering and jumping up and down about the entire thing, so on and so forth. But what he is saying is he has publicly made comments about Ben Shapiro's stance. And he had Ben Shapiro on his show. Okay. And Stephen A. Smith told Ben that absolutely nothing could change his mind about Derek Chauvin and his guilt. So, anyway, here I'm going to play a little clip of it for you. And you can kind of take a listen to this.
Let me ask you this. I mean, if you looked at, you said before that you didn't look at the autopsy report, you're not taking a lot of time looking at the evidence or the autopsy. What would it take for you to change your mind on the case? Or is there nothing that could change your mind on the case because you saw the tape, for example?
Well, it wouldn't take much, and this is why I said this, because normally I would look at the autopsy reports or whatever. You know, I saw people bringing up his arrest record. I saw people bringing up fentanyl in the system. I saw all of these things. And all I could come to, Ben, fair or unfair, was that none of that matters if he wasn't on the ground with a knee on the back of his neck for 9+ minutes. Because I'm looking at a trained police officer who should know better. I looked at the experts who were saying, with their trained, there was no reason, and you saw it, I'm sure you saw this, and not to say that you would embrace it with the level of sincerity that others may, because I know the level of skepticism that you look at when you see the news outlets. And by the way, I don't blame you. I'm with you on that, okay? But I would say to you, listening to experts talk about how police officers are trained and pointing to the fact that Derek Chauvin had no business being in that position and putting George Floyd in that position, particularly once he was handcuffed and contained. To me, that, along with the ultimate outcome, is all the evidence I need. And that's where we might differ.
Right. I mean, that's totally fair if we differ on that. I guess the question I would ask you is, given the fact that that was a Minneapolis Police Department trained protocol, given the fact that Floyd did ask to be removed from the car. I mean, in the lead up to this situation, the part of the tape that nobody watches, he was actually outside the car. The police officers move him inside the car. He says he's claustrophobic, and then he claims 6 consecutive times that he cannot breathe while he's in the car. So if the idea is that it was the police officer's knee that deprives him of breath, he was already claiming that he couldn't breathe inside the car, suggesting he was already in the middle of some sort of medical event, right? And then he was brought outside the car. I guess the question that I have for you, again, is what level of evidence would need to be shown to for you to get to reasonable doubt? I mean, you seem incredibly certain, right? All I'm saying is that the reasonable doubt standard is what pertains in criminal justice. What would it take to get you to reasonable doubt? Or is there no reasonable doubt that could be achieved simply by dint of the fact that he had his knee on his neck? By the way, it's not for the full 9 minutes. There are minutes where it's on his back. I mean, even the prosecution acknowledges that. The real question is, I think, the last 50 seconds, right? The last 50 seconds of the tape where Floyd stops breathing and Chauvin's knee is still on his neck. That is really the question as to whether this goes into criminal charge territory. Otherwise, he ends up being in a position where he's actually just using a typical subdual technique before you put the guy back in the car and you take him off to jail. And I'm saying, to answer your question, there's absolutely nothing that could convince me that Derek Chauvin deserved a different outcome because of what you just articulated, what we saw, even if it's for the last 50 seconds. I'm not changing my position.
So the reason why I wanted to play that for you in its entirety is to show you that even a person who is reportedly thinking or having a conversation is so set in what they believe that they saw that they are totally, it's called perception. I think it's perception bias, meaning that they already have made up their minds. There's nothing else that can be shown to really change their perceived outcome, regardless of whether the fact that the whether regardless of whether the fact that the autopsy shows that the official autopsy, keep in mind, shows that there was absolutely no damage, no injuries sustained outside of his body, around his neck, that would be an indicator that he essentially choked to death. Never mind the fact that the toxicology report said that he had something like 11 milliliters per I can't remember the exact terminology, but he had basically 3 times the amount of fentanyl in his system that is typically considered to be deadly. I mean, 3 milligrams is enough. Again, there are people in this world who are so wrapped up around the narrative that you're going to spend all day trying to convince them. Now, I'm going to tell you, I am on the side of Ben Shapiro with this, and Ben presents so far he's presented 3 episodes, and he has done, in my mind, a very good job of laying out the case and explaining exactly why he believes, and anyone with a bit of intelligence, okay, that anyone with a bit of intelligence could go through and look at this case with anything other than untainted viewpoint and come to the conclusion that George Floyd died due to his poor health and his fentanyl in particular, and other drug abuse. I mean, his heart, according to the autopsy, his heart was way bigger than what it should be, what the normal human heart should be, in showing that he had an enlarged heart. There were signs on his lungs that he was already going to be, if he wasn't dead because of this particular incident, that he very well could be dead a week from now, 2 weeks from now, or whatever. He was already on the path to dying. And anyway, so if you get a chance, I'm just saying, if you get a chance, go and listen to the case for Derek Chauvin. And as much as Stephen A. Smith has been on our side, meaning the conservatives' side in certain cases, don't ever think that he is going to be on our side on everything. He hasn't shifted his stripes or his spots, depending upon which way you want to call it. He hasn't shifted at all. Okay? He is truly set in his ways with the idea that Derek Chauvin was essentially had the correct decision being made. So anyway, the point is also too, Smith also, after that clip, or maybe before, but also attempted to argue that Ben Shapiro, could not weigh in on the Floyd case because he did not have the, quote, lived experience of black folks. That's a common argument that these people make. When they know that they're trapped, they know that they are, well, they may not know that they are in the wrong, but they can't articulate a rational and reasonable and logical conclusion over all of this. And one of the first things that they do is they either say it's racism, or if they're not looking to make that kind of a leap, their next thing is to say, well, you just don't understand because you're a white person, or you were upper middle class, or you're privileged. And that, to me, that is a extremely hard and very revealing argument that these people attempt to make. Now, he continued and says, what about the argument that when we talk about black folks, you can talk about data all you want to, but the real experiences that we endure from time to time is not something you can necessarily calculate? How seriously do you take those assertions coming from a community, whether it's your own, mine, or anyone else's? Again, facts, and this is why I like Ben Shapiro's lines, facts don't care about your feelings. Or better yet, feelings don't care about your facts. Because the fact of the matter is, when you look at all of the data, when you get rid of all of the emotional attachments to whatever it is, okay? When you get rid of all of that and you look purely empirically at the data that is being presented to you in cases such as this, or even more so, okay, the fact of the matter is that you can't justify what happened to Derek Chauvin if he were not tried, and that he was basically railroaded into that situation. So I'm just, I mean, if it had borne out that Derek Chauvin didn't do things the proper way, that he didn't, or that George Floyd didn't have the amount of drugs in his system and the health problems, apparently, that he would have had, if it had borne out that George Floyd was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, yep, I would be on board. Derek Chauvin should be in jail and should stay in jail. But not in this case, because the facts do not bear out the reality of the situation. Anyway, all right. Okay. So, let me go ahead and tell you some good news. So, streetinsider.com, all right, streetinsider.com put out this piece, and it is a really nice win. Again, win for our president. Investment commitments in the U.S. nears $3 trillion since Trump took office. Do you remember when Obama left office and said, yeah, you know, all those jobs, all those manufacturing jobs that went overseas, yeah, they're gone. They're not coming back. And Trump thinks he can wave a magic wand and whoop, they're going to come back. They're not going to come back. Yeah. Well, apparently Trump is getting commitments from companies over and over and over again. Here in the piece, the list of companies and countries investing in the U.S. as part of President Donald Trump's push to reshore manufacturing continues to grow. So you have, on Monday, the Trump administration added Hyundai to the list, where they are planning to announce a $20 billion U.S. investment. The South Korean company's reported plan, includes the construction of a $5 billion steel plant in Louisiana. The onshoring operation from Hyundai is expected to create 1,500 jobs in Louisiana. Last week, NVIDIA announced an investment of over $100 billion in the U.S., and pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson announced a more than $55 billion investment. Trump is calling it the golden age of America. More investments, more jobs, and more money in the pockets of hardworking Americans, he says. U.S. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said on X today. All thanks to President Trump's economic policies. President Trump is making America wealthy again. So here's some of the other commitments that have come in. The UAE has said that they are investing $1.4 trillion. Saudi Arabia is investing, or has committed to investing $600 billion. Apple has committed to $500 billion. NVIDIA, $100 billion. SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, $100 billion. Taiwan, a semiconductor, $100 billion. Johnson & Johnson, $55 billion. Eli Lilly, $27 billion. CMA CGM Group, $20 billion. Merck, $1 billion, and GE Aerospace, $1 billion. So there you go. Lots of changes, and this is all stuff that, honestly, that Joe Biden could have done had he been awake. All right. Well, one more win, and then we'll get on to the pet of the week. So, one more win, which, you remember how the left was saying that Elon Musk, that NASA, they were claiming that NASA did what got the astronauts home, that it wasn't Elon Musk, it wasn't any of that that kind of thing, that it had nothing to do with Elon Musk or even with Trump. Well, here on DrewBerquist.com, NASA finally has credited Trump for resolving the astronauts' extended mission. It would not have happened. So the Biden administration reportedly left the American astronauts hanging, but Donald Trump stepped in to bring them home, and even NASA admits it wouldn't have happened without Trump, as reported by the Daily Mail. NASA's Bethany Stevens had no hesitation laying it out. Speaking to Fox News Digital, she said clearly it would not have happened without President Trump's intervention. So, according to her, the rescue mission marked a huge win for the Trump administration, not something that anyone is hearing about in the mainstream media. Trump drew national attention to the situation back in January when he revealed that he told Elon Musk to go get the astronauts who had been virtually abandoned in space. Musk confirmed the call, and by January, both men publicly stated that politics were behind the delayed return. That delay left astronauts Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore stuck in the International Space Station over 9 months instead of just the 8 days that they were supposed to be there because of problems with Boeing's Starliner. On March 18th, the astronauts finally returned to Earth, splashing down off of the Florida coast in the SpaceX Crew 9 capsule, thanks to Trump's pressure and direction. NASA's acting administrator, Janet Petro, acknowledged Trump's hand in speeding up the schedule by a full month. She said, praising both the Trump administration and the international team for adjusting their mission to make it happen. Per President Trump's direction, NASA and SpaceX worked diligently. There you go. Anyway. Yeah. So apparently before then, according to the piece, NASA tried to spin things by claiming safety and scheduling concerns were the driving factors. The timeline tells a different story, though. It wasn't until Trump intervened that the real action happened. Looking ahead, NASA is gearing up to keep that momentum going with Trump's nominee for NASA Administrator, Jared Isaacman. A successful entrepreneur and civilian space pioneer, Isaacman has gained serious traction. Well, there you go. It was Trump and Musk, but Trump that got the wheels going to get them home. All right, folks, let me tell you about the sponsor for the Pet of the Week. The sponsor for the Pet of the Week is Positive. If you have a dog, and we've all been there, our pup goes from full energy to sick and miserable in an instant. And of course, it's always at the worst times. Then we're calling the vets in the middle of the night or on weekends trying to find a clinic that's going to take us in. It's a terrible way to manage your dog's health, not to mention your stress levels and your monthly budget. That's why people are getting the Pet Emergency Kit by Positive. That's Pawsitive. It contains critical medications and supplies that can not only keep you out of the veterinary office, but may even save your dog's life. Their kit contains critical medications like activated charcoal, styptic powder, and more. It might even save your dog's life. Head on over to positive.com. That's PAWSITIVE. Positive.com and use promo code STUDIO, STUDIO, to get 15% off your pet emergency kit. Once again, head over to positive.com and use the promo code STUDIO to get 15% off of your pet emergency kit. That's positive.com, promo code STUDIO, and get 15% off your pet's emergency kit. All right. And that leads us into, of course, as soon as I can find the right button, here we go. Tonight's pet of the week. And yes, Amy, I did get it. I promise I will get it out, get that list out. Most of what Amy is talking about here, by the way, is not necessarily medicines, although medicines are there, but it's more of here's some things that you have in your house that can actually be utilized for dogs. For an example, Benadryl for allergies, or feeding them pumpkin for, I believe it's tummy upset or something along those lines. So anyway, let's get on to tonight's pet of the week. Tonight's pet of the week is submitted by Coco. Now, not too long ago, Coco had some kittens. And I believe we featured them here on the program. Where am I at here? Okay, I'm trying to set it up while you guys are here. So let's see. This here. Yep. And I need that. Oh, it's already there. Perfect. All right. So So basically, Coco had a couple of kittens that she sent to us not too long ago, and we do appreciate that. Well, here, we're going to get some kitty pics. Some more kitty pics. These are some updates. Coco writes, Hi, Rick and my fellow whiskey warriors. Here is an update on the kittens. They are now fully grown. Luna is nearing 2 years old, and Mittens, Mitzi Moo, is 18 months old now. I am including some cute pictures of them and also a video that I sent in a separate email, which I got a hold of. I got both of them. And she goes, hopefully these will work. And then she says, Dizzy, of course, makes her appearance. Then she ends it with, thanks for all you do, Coco. You got to remind me, who's Dizzy? Is Dizzy your dog? Is Dizzy your puppy? Anyway, let's go ahead and get on to, there we go. There's the two kittens. It looks like they crawled up a ladder. I don't know why they would crawl up a ladder. I know my cat would never crawl up a ladder like that. But anyway. And there they are. God, they've gotten big. Wow. They have gotten big, but apparently they've bonded. Oh, there's Mitzi. Mitzi up in the top corner. Or Dizzy, sorry, I think, up in the top corner. And there they are. Isn't it funny how the camera angle kind of makes one of their faces look off? Anyway. So there they are. And oh God, I hate this. It always would cause me to have to wash the car because you get paw prints all over. And white is bad. White is bad. White is bad with muddy paw prints. As dark, and dark is also bad with muddy paw prints too. Dark cars and bright cars anyway. So, but yeah, there you go. So And let's see. Yep, that's back. That's it for the photos. All right, that's it for the photos. But we do have a video. So let me go ahead and cue up the video here. And there is, I don't think there's sound to the video, but we'll just go ahead and go with it. Now, paw prints all over the windshield. There is the kitties are looking at the mirror. Oh, you can just barely hear the cat nails scratching on the mirror. Oh, they're sniffing each other, saying hi. There you go. So they obviously have gotten, they're pretty equal in size, it looks like. Pretty equal in size. Yeah, so there they are. They're a lot better than my cats. My cat, I have one outdoor cat and one indoor cat. Well, let's just say that the indoor cat's younger than the outdoor and wants to play all the time whenever the outdoor is indoor. Yeah, anyway, if you followed all that, and he is not too happy with her when she does that. But anyway, there you go. There is tonight's Pet of the Week. If you want to have your pet featured here on Pet of the Week, all you need to do is send me photos, videos, whatever it is that you have. Don't send too many, of course, because, I mean, I can only do so much during a period of time. But send me the name of the pet, the any kind of story that you might want to go with it, whatever, or give me artistic license to go ahead and create one. I've done a few of those, too. But you can send all of that in to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. And by the way, I need a question for Question of the Week for Saturday night. That's the other segment that is a fan favorite. So get that in by sending those in to the same email address, fans at AmericanPerspective.online. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It's free. Sign up and sign in. And once you are, search up the American Perspective channel. Once you find it, hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget on your way out, hit those thumbs ups and like buttons across the board, whether it is on X, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, the aforementioned Rumble. Tomorrow is International Whiskey Day. So celebrate by having a glass of whiskey. It's too bad it didn't fall on tonight. Anyway, we will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.